I've had a few people over the recent weeks say to me, these are people I know quite well and I've known for quite a long time. I'd say, the two bikes that you use on the road now, this one and the CCM, you've actually had them for quite a long time. Which is not necessarily like me. I quite often own bikes, ride them, enjoy them, see something else that takes my fancy, and switch. It is actually quite rare that I hang on to a bike. Now the CCM, I always, but this stems back to motocross days. There were guys, you had to have a few quid in your back pocket to afford a CCM back then, but there were guys competing on CCMs, and I always fancied one simply because all of the rest of us were on two strokes. Oh, look at that lovely old E-type. Yeah, all of the rest of us were on two strokes, and there were sort of 3 or 4 CCMs cruising around, and you could hear them. You could hear these things over the two strokes. You could hear the thump of that big 4-stroke single. So anyway, back then I always swore I'd own a CCM. Now the original intention was to actually own a CCM motocross bike. Well, I never got around to that. I got older. I quit motocross. Several years went by and I ended up buying a CCM Supermoto, and I often wonder whether I should sell it or whether I should keep it. They sort of dropped in value initially and they've just sat at the same kind of value for years now. Not that I actually bought it as an investment. The CCM have gone bust again, so whether they'll be bought out or resurrected, who knows. But I don't think that's going to make my particular bike suddenly become collectible. They did make quite a few of them. And then you come to this bike. I briefly owned, and it was pretty briefly, a 1200 Scrambler, because I thought that was the one for me. Now, I didn't have it very long. It was the XE. It was a heavy bike, but all the weight felt very high up. It was a leggy bike. It had some suspension on it, that thing did, and it rode like an extremely heavy supermoto. So you couldn't really throw it around like you can throw a supermoto around. And I never really saw eye to eye with that bike, and was wondering what to do and where to go and what to get next. And I saw these. I saw the T100 Scrambler, and immediately thought, well, that's a better looking bike straight away. It looks more retro, which was kind of what I was after at the time. So anyway, I did the deal. I got rid of the 1200. I bought this. And within a week, maybe 2 weeks of owning it, there were certain things I knew I was going to have to address. The first was the suspension. Now, a lot of people complain about it. I don't think the standard suspension on these bikes is bad. It's just very average. And that's actually something that's ongoing. There's still another modification to do. I'll talk about that shortly. But Yeah, new shock absorbers, progressive springs, slightly heavier fork oil, and it was a big improvement. The next thing, I don't know what happened to my voice there. The next thing was performance, not so much kind of performance, stroke power. I wasn't sure. This is an early street scrambler, so one of the first ones. Now these were lower power. They were 54 brake horsepower. And although it was 9 times out of 10 it was adequate, just every now and then it did feel lacking. But the great thing about the early ones is you can take a huge leap in horsepower with a camshaft. So a camshaft and a map later, it's not been on a rolling road, I've not had it dynoed, but it feels considerably different. And I'm happy with where it is. And then the last thing, and this is kind of old habits die hard. The last thing was something I end up doing with a lot of bikes that I've owned, and that's weight. You look at something and you think, well, it doesn't need that, it doesn't need that, and you start you put the bike on a diet, you start taking things off that you really don't need. And that was almost an obsession. If you trawl back through my many films, there is actually one. I probably could do with doing another one actually, because it's since lost even more weight. But yeah, there was a film that I did where I spread all the parts that I'd taken off the bike on the floor next to the bike, and it's a huge amount, both of parts but in weight. Now that's probably made the biggest difference of all. It's completely altered the handling characteristics. Now another during the weight losing times, I never liked the spoked, the actually fairly weak, inherently weak spoked wheels on the street scrambler. They only had 32 spokes, very thin steel rims, not particularly strong, and I managed to bend one just by hitting a bit of debris on the road. Didn't knock me off the bike or anything, but I actually put a little kink in the rim. So a little bit of investigation later, and I fitted street twin wheels to it. Now the downside to doing that is you lose an inch in diameter on your front wheel. The street scrambler wheel was a 19-inch front wheel, street twin an 18-inch. So I kind of lowered the front end, sharpened the steering up. It didn't ruin the handling, but it altered it. So that's when I had to add a bit of weight and stick a steering damper on it, because I was getting a slight weave in the corners. Now I've looked at this, and I've been investigating it for a long time. Free Spirits do a kit that actually lifts your forks, lengthens them by 30 millimeters. That's not taking into account any sag. Now I'm going to have to get some measuring kit out and measure my forks up, the stance of the bike and all the rest of it. I'm going to maybe get a spirit level on it, you know, to get it level. They're basic nuts, bolts, washers and spacers. There's nothing much to their kit, and it's some idiots out there. And I've got a friend who's talking about buying one, and so I'm going to measure up my bike. how and where I want the stance to be. And if he buys one of these free spirits kits, I've said I'll fit it for you if you let me take some measurements from it, and I'll make one up. I'll make a fork lengthening kit up myself. It might need to be a bit longer, it might need to be a bit shorter, I don't know. I'll go to work that out, but that's the plan. And slightly heavier fork oil as well. That's usually the cheap fix, to be honest. If you want to start messing with your front suspension, change the fork oil, heavier or lighter depending on what you think the issue is. So anyway, the upshot of all of this is I think I'm probably going to keep this bike. It does what it says on the tin. It's an incredibly forgiving bike to live with and to ride. I don't think you can say it does anything great, but it doesn't do anything bad. Actually, one thing it does do that's pretty great is it looks good. I think it's a great looking bike. Even though I've turned mine into more of a flat track style bike, I still think it's a pretty good looking bike. I've got no idea why we're crawling along here. Maybe there's a tractor at the head of the queue or something. But I'm not going to be a hero today. I'll just go with the flow. I'm in no rush. I'm actually south of Bridgenorth. There's a bit of a place down here called, I can't remember what it's called. Pool Hall Fisheries, that's it. Bit of a biker's cafe. Taken over from the previous ones that used to be down here, which we are going to go past very shortly. Yeah, I've been down here before. I just don't think I've ever had a camera strapped onto my crash helmet when I've been down here. I'm just going to pop. I've just been out for a bit of a ride in the sunshine, and I thought I'd pop in here for a quick cuppa and a look at other people's bikes. That's always worth doing. Actually, I was talking to a fella with an 865 Triumph Scrambler, one of the early carb ones. And he'd done a lot of things to that I've either have done or I want to do to this. I think he'd put tiger forks on it, because he had longer forks on it, longer shocks on it, and basically he'd stripped all the unnecessary bling off the thing, and it looked very good. That was an early noughties bike. That never really panned out. Pit Stop Cafe. There's a few bikes in there. Locally known as Piss Pot Cafe. Or maybe this was it, a cyclist holding us up. This place on the right, Tony's, that's by far, to my mind, was and always has been by far the best cafe down this bit of road. saw that. I don't know why I didn't miss it, why I didn't attempt to avoid it. It's a bank holiday Monday in the UK, so there will be plenty of traffic today. And I'm on a pretty main route. So when I'm going home later on, I shall likely take a different route. Yeah, so the front fork extension, basically the front end's got to come out of the bike, so I'm not going to do that until the weather breaks. I don't want to have the bike in pieces when I could be riding it. It's not a huge job. I've got coming up in a week or two's time, very shortly, the MOT, the annual roadworthiness test. I don't envisage that being a big deal. Nothing's fallen apart on it. Everything's tight and working. There used to be a good cafe in there as well. Okay, so not long to go. Judging by the number of bikes on the road, I suspect it could be a little bit busy here. I mean, if there's a massive queue, I'll go somewhere else for a cup of tea. But it's a nice day. Remember where this place is. I normally hit it from the other direction. And here we are. I've got a funny feeling there's going to be a big old queue for a copper. That is Pool Hall Fisheries on a Bank Holiday Monday. Bloody well attended. There's the fisheries bit there. And still they keep coming. Oh, guy in the E-Type's coming for a cuppa as well. I've driven one of them. Bloody awful cars to drive, but great cars to look at.